On July 1st, 2026, the most important crypto law in history went live. Overnight, more than 1,000 crypto companies either held a valid license or became illegal. USDT, the world's largest stablecoin, was pulled from major European exchanges. Binance failed to secure its license and had to restrict services. Ripple walked in with full approval across 30 countries, and 450 million European consumers woke up to a completely different crypto landscape. This is MiCA, the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, the European Union's first comprehensive crypto law. And it changes not just Europe, but how crypto regulation works everywhere on Earth. Today, Coin Explained breaks it all down. What MiCA actually is, what it requires, who won, who lost, what happened to stablecoins, and what it means for you, whether you live in Europe or not. What is MiCA, and why did Europe build it? Before MiCA, crypto regulation in Europe was a patchwork. 27 different countries, 27 different sets of rules. A company that was fully licensed in Germany might be illegal in France. A stablecoin approved in Malta might be restricted in the Netherlands. For a market of 450 million people, this fragmentation was a problem. For consumers who had no consistent protection, and for businesses that had to navigate different rules in every country they operated. MiCA, the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, was designed to fix that. It is the EU's first unified legal framework for crypto. One rulebook, one license. Valid across all 27 EU member states and the 30 countries of the European Economic Area. The regulation entered into force in June 2023. It was rolled out in 2 phases. Phase 1 in June 2024 covered stablecoin rules. Phase 2 in December 2024 covered everything else: exchanges, brokers, custodians, wallet providers. A transitional period allowed existing firms to keep operating under national rules while they applied for MiCA licenses. But that transitional period ended on July 1st, 2026. From that date, licensed or shut down, no exceptions. MiCA covers crypto assets that are not already regulated by existing financial services legislation. It regulates public offerings of crypto tokens, trading platforms, custody services, and related businesses. It sets rules on transparency, capital requirements, consumer protection, and market integrity. What MiCA does not cover is equally important. It does not regulate NFTs, which are considered unique and therefore outside the scope of the framework. It does not directly regulate DeFi, decentralized finance protocols that have no central operator. These gaps are acknowledged and will likely be addressed in future legislation. But for now, MiCA focuses on the centralized layer of the crypto ecosystem. What MiCA actually requires, the rulebook explains simply. So what does a company actually have to do to get a MiCA license? And what does that license allow them to do? To become a licensed crypto asset service provider, or CASP, under MiCA, a company must apply to the financial regulator of one EU member state. Luxembourg, France, Lithuania, and Ireland have emerged as the most popular choices because of their experienced financial regulators and business-friendly environments. It requires proof of minimum capital. The exact amount depends on the services offered, but can range from $50,000 to $150,000 or more. It requires anti-money laundering systems, know your customer processes, and compliance with the EU travel rule, which requires collecting and sharing information about both the sender and receiver of every crypto transaction. And it requires a clear plan for how the company would wind down safely if it failed to protect customer assets. Once licensed, a CASP earns what is called a passport, the right to offer services across all 30 EEA countries using that single license. You get licensed in Luxembourg, You can serve clients in Germany, Spain, Italy, Poland, Sweden, and 26 other countries without needing separate national approvals. The compliance cost is significant. Reports in 2026 indicate licensing fees of $250,000 to $500,000 for initial applications. Ongoing compliance can reach 15% of revenue for smaller firms, compared to under 2% for large exchanges. Winners and losers. Who got licensed? Who got shut out? The numbers from the MiCA transition are stark. Before MiCA, more than 1,200 crypto firms held national registrations across EU member states. As of July 1, 2026, only around 210 to 244 of them, roughly 17% to 20%, had secured full MiCA authorization. The other 80% are now, legally speaking, operating without permission. Lawyers estimate Europe will go from approximately 3,000 registered crypto providers to somewhere between 300 and 400 licensed firms. That is a 90% reduction in the number of active providers, the biggest regulatory shakeout in the history of the European crypto market. The winners are the firms that invested early and heavily in compliance. Coinbase's European entity chose Luxembourg. Bitstamp chose Luxembourg. Ripple chose Luxembourg. The most significant loss was Binance. The world's largest crypto exchange by trading volume filed its XRP application with Greece's regulator in January 2026. 1 week earlier, Binance had recorded $1.23 billion in weekly net outflows, up 207% from the previous week, as users moved their funds in anticipation of the disruption. Ripple's position is particularly interesting. The company received both an electronic money institution license in February 2026 and a full XRP license on July 6, completing what Tech Times described as a dual EU license stack that gives Ripple access to 30 European markets simultaneously. This makes Ripple one of the most comprehensively licensed crypto companies in the world, with 75+ licenses globally, and now the EU passport added to the set. What MiCA means for stablecoins: USDT out, USDC in. The stablecoin story under MiCA is the one that has had the most immediate visible impact on ordinary crypto users in Europe. Any stablecoin classified as an e-money token, which includes dollar-pegged coins like USDT and USDC, must be issued by an entity that holds an electronic money institution license in the EU. The issuer must maintain full one-to-one reserve backing. It must provide regular, audited reserve reports. And it must be subject to EU regulatory oversight. Tether, the issuer of USDT, the world's largest stablecoin with $189 billion in circulation, chose not to pursue MiCA compliance. The company is based in El Salvador and decided the EU compliance requirements were either too expensive or too intrusive for its business model. The result was immediate. Major EU-facing exchanges, including OKX Europe, Binance Europe, and Coinbase's European platform, began delisting USDT months before the July 1st deadline. European users who held USDT found themselves having to convert to alternatives. Circle, the issuer of USDC, took the opposite approach. Circle obtained an EMI license in France and positioned USDC as the compliant alternative for European users. With Tether pulling back, Circle is now the dominant dollar stablecoin in the European regulated market. Analysts expect USDC's European market share to grow significantly as unlicensed alternatives are pushed out. Ripple's RLUSD also holds EMI licensing through its Luxembourg entity, making it one of the few dollar stablecoins fully compliant with MiCA from day one. And Ripple is now positioned as one of the primary choices. Global impact. Does MiCA affect crypto outside Europe? Here is the question that people outside Europe ask most often. If I do not live in the EU, does MiCA matter to me? The answer is yes, for 3 reasons. First, The Brussels effect. Europe is one of the world's largest economic blocs. The GDPR privacy regulation is the most famous example. Companies around the world changed their data practices to comply with a European law that technically only applied in the EU. MiCA is likely to have a similar effect on crypto compliance globally. Second, market access. Any company that wants to serve European customers must comply with MiCA, regardless of where that company is based. A U.S. exchange targeting European clients needs a MiCA license or a licensed EU partner. An Asian stablecoin issuer who wants their coin listed on EU exchanges needs EU compliance. MiCA effectively extends European standards to any global company that values European market access. MiCA has given Europe a significant head start in setting global crypto standards. The U.S. is still working through the Clarity Act. Singapore, the UAE, Hong Kong, and Japan all have their own frameworks. But MiCA is the most comprehensive and the most fully implemented. Every other jurisdiction's regulators are now studying it, and some will likely adopt similar structures. What Europe built in the last 3 years is becoming the template that the world will reference for the next decade. For crypto investors everywhere, MiCA means a more institutional, more regulated, more expensive to enter European market. Fewer providers, stronger consumer protections. A clear divide between licensed and unlicensed platforms. And the beginning of a global regulatory standard that will gradually reshape how every country approaches crypto. MiCA is not the end of crypto in Europe. It is the beginning of a new, more institutional era. One rulebook, 30 countries, 17% of firms licensed, 80% gone. USDT out. USDC and RLUSD and Binance blocked. Ripple fully approved. The biggest crypto regulatory shakeout in history, and it happened in a single week. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Every week, Coin Explained breaks down the regulatory forces reshaping the financial world, simply, clearly, and honestly. Next week, the Clarity Act Senate vote window opens. We will be there for every step. See you then.